Okay, on Lenny's impromptu transmission rebuild shop, we'll show you what we got here. We bought a built transmission off of Facebook Marketplace. And in this episode, we unbuild it and then rebuild it. Here we go. But before we get into it, I want to get back to doing our police officer tributes that we've always done on this channel. We've gotten away from it. It's unacceptable. We need to get back to it. So what I'm going to talk about today is other side of the globe, but it's an important one to me because of how shocking it is, especially for a place that I'm sure doesn't usually deal with this kind of thing. So on December 12th, 2022, Queensland, Australia police went to an address to check for a missing person. After entering the property, 4 constables were immediately met with gunfire in an ambush. 2 officers, Constable McCrow and Constable Arnold, were killed during the ambush. A 3rd officer, Constable Kirk, was shot in the leg and wounded. He later recovered. Constable Bruff was able to take cover in some brush and was not injured by gunfire, but the perpetrators set the brush on fire to try to flush him out. He was ultimately able to escape with minor injuries. A neighbor of the perpetrators who saw the fire and came over to help was also murdered by the perpetrators. So there was an ensuing standoff and firefight that lasted into the next day. Ultimately, all 3 perpetrators were killed. This one stood out to me, which is why I picked it for this video. We're going to try to do these every video. I'm trying to raise awareness for things around the world that not just here in the US, that police officers face, risk, and go through. So Constable McCrow, Constable Arnold, thank you for your service and thank you for your sacrifice. So let's get into this transmission build video. Now that we've had this thing kicking around on the shop floor for about 6 months, let's finally see what we got. So we've got the catcher pan there, all these clean dry beauties to measure how much fluid comes out so we know how much to put back in, and also so that we can get a good look at it and see if there's any metal in it or anything like that. Here's a good clue that it's had some good stuff done. Adjustable vacuum modulator, see the little set screw in there. Also billet servo cover, and then the big deep aluminum pan. We're just going to barely sneak that drain plug over so that we can dump it into our clean jugs. Here we go. I did pull the dipstick because this thing's still full of fluid and it looks great. But who knows what's in the bottom of the pan? And who knows what parts exactly are in here? This could just be a spray painted bird with a fancy pan on it. Okay, we're gonna find out together how good this thing is or isn't. She's definitely got some wear on her. Taint brand new, but this looks like friction material. I mean, there's no, no, that's just the casting of the panel. There's not any metal chunks or anything. So my main questions here were, what kind of shape is it in? And what kind of goodies does it have in it? She looks pretty good. Let's get some light on this situation. Okay, let's see if I can drop everything on the floor. So you can see that looks like just a plain old steel gear there. The sun shell or whatever you call it, or the drum. Maybe that's just the drum, the steel drum. Here is the lever for the band. And in here, you can see everything looks real good. There's the band right there. But they don't look like they're crazy billet gears or anything like that. But obviously it's been run. But if you look, none of the friction material is all coated in here like you'll see on ones that have been run quite a bit. So there it is. Mystery built, not built C6 transmission. We will slap some new seals and gaskets in it. New pan gasket, tail housing gasket because it looks like it was leaking a little bit. And a new front seal because that's the reason why it was pulled in the first place. Okay, so digging into our front pump seal leak here. Got the seal out already and saw this was in farther, but I could see the pump bushing is the free floating design, which is not good. So that's why they had a front pump seal leak. That guy is absolutely boogered. And it's been spinning around in there. It's a little, sorry, you probably can't see that. It's a little chewy, but like, I don't know. It doesn't look like it was running a super long time like that. And I don't know what the inside of the housing there looks like. So, I don't know. Either caught it just in time or this pump is toast, which, I mean, even if I have to rebuild the front pump and the rest of it's okay, that's still not bad. I basically bought this as if I was banking on it being a rebuilt transmission with upgraded soft parts, clutches and steels and seals and stuff like that. I did not bank on it having upgraded hard parts like the guy thought it did. So, priced accordingly. I paid what it would cost me to buy a rebuild kit for the core C6 that I already have. So, I guess we'll tear into this pump and see if I came out ahead or not. Okay, we're admittedly not in a great position here, but could be worse. Just saying. Could be worse. Because that bearing had lost its press. Who knows? I would say the most likely thing that happened is whoever was putting the torque converter in boogered up that pump bushing. And then it spun because the surface on the torque converter has some grooves in it. I'm pretty sure I can polish them out, but we need to get this pump pulled out and see what it looks like, because the housing of the pump itself might be worn away from that spinning in there to where no bearing will ever fit tight in there again. So we might need a new pump. I also have a full core C6 that I can rob parts out of, but we're going to take this out, take the pump apart, and see if the gears and stuff in the housing are all chewed up. There's a couple of these that have another set of threads in them so that you can use a slide hammer. Pull that guy out. We're not on that program currently. This transmission ain't about that. It ain't about that life. Come on, baby. There's nowhere to thread in the bolt for the slap hammer, bro. What do you even want from me at this juncture? Whatever this shaft is that the stator goes onto, I believe comes with when this comes out. This is the one that turns. This one doesn't. The one-way clutch in the torque converter splines onto that guy. Well, what are we gonna do, Fred? Gonna be like that? Do something, guys. Hacha! You guys don't need to see 30 minutes of fiddling around. Okay, I'm gonna try to show you what we got here. I got a little excited and got the pump out of the transmission. And I definitely don't think, well, maybe that's a billet gear set. It sure does look shiny. But anyway, this thing is like brand new inside. Is that one of my beard hairs or a scratch? I don't know if you can see it, but there's even part of a sticker on the outside of the band still. So I think we got away with it. I think we're going to be able to hose this thing out, kind of rebuild the pump, and send it. So here's the billet servo cover that I took off to check in there. Here's the pump. I already took it apart, got kind of excited. But anyway, the only damage or anything I can find slightly awry is the surface here where that front pump bushing goes, which is what supports the torque converter. And this obviously is not good. So that's supposed to be a press fit, not just, you know, hot dog down a hallway. But the surface in there, I mean, there's like a groove or two, but it does not look terrible. So I'm thinking I'll get a new bushing and like a rebuild kit for this front pump. And if the new bushing has the proper press fit in there like it should and fits the torque converter like it should, then we're going to clean everything up, slap some new gaskets, and send it. I don't think I'm going to use that torque converter though, because I just don't trust it. And I don't want this whole scenario to happen over again. The good news is this thing is like brand new and I can't find any trash in it. So I did take it all the way apart though for two reasons. One, to make sure there was no trash that got run through it from the front pump bushing going bad, which I had already showed you. And the new one looks like that, you know, beautiful. So anyway, I didn't find anything in there. The only things we have left to inspect are the converter and the valve body. And if trash was going to go into it, the first thing it would go into is the valve body. So we definitely needed to take that guy apart. But I have cleaned everything, blown through everything with shop air, with brake clean and shop air, brake clean and shop air. Nothing is coming out except clean transmission fluid and a little bit of clutch material, like so. Is pretty normal from what I know from break-in from a new transmission. Those your frictions actually wear, and that's the material that comes off of them. So that's pretty normal to see that on a first fluid change on an automatic transmission. But the other reason I went further into it than I really needed to is all the gears and planetaries and stuff come out real easy once you have the front pump out, which I had to take the pump out anyway. Everything basically just lifts out of here because all that stuff sets in there, and the pump is what holds everything in. So I wanted to see if it had upgraded parts, and sure enough, it does. If you see that planetary gear set down there, see how there's 6 little button heads? That's because that has 6 planetary gears, and so does the forward gear set, which I'll show you when we get in there. But it does have upgraded parts. So I found the upgraded gears, which are, I believe, stock gears from an E4OD. And it has things like a billet servo. It has, where you at, feller? It has the E apply lever, which I think the F one is the best one, like from Shelby's or whatever, but I don't know. The guy had told me that he believed it had upgraded internals, but he wasn't sure because they'd never been into it. It just had the front pump seal leaking problem, which we see now that's because that front pump bearing was toast. So I think we came out good here. So we're going to risk it for the biscuit, and we're going to put this dude back together with that new bushing and some new seals. Now, like I said, the two things I haven't checked are, which it's an aftermarket unit, and from what I can find, it's a TCI. I'll run the numbers on it again, but I think it's like a 2500 stall. Here's a stock one for reference. This is from another stock rebuilt tranny that I have. You can see how big it is compared to that little guy. So I've had that dumping in this pan here so we can see if there's any trash in it. Now, that's not the perfect way to inspect a converter. You really would cut it open, like if you had a trans failure and you wanted to reuse your really expensive converter. The valve body we will get into next. So let's see if there's any junk in there. Okay, we're gonna come at this a different way. I'm gonna try putting it back up on the bench because I am sick of fighting these gear sets to get them in there. It just is just not happening. Seems like it still needs to go just a little bit more. boy, this has really been dragging out. So made some decisions and got some more stuff done though. Finally picked up a block plate. Thanks Keith for selling that to me. That thing looks mint. I got the band adjusted. I got the torque converter back from the tranny shop. I changed my mind on this because it's pretty much exactly what I need for this motor, allegedly. Running the numbers on it, it's a TCI 441001, which decodes to a Ford C6, big block pilot size, 2400 stall converter, which means it should probably brake stall to 2400, which is exactly what the cam guy spec'd out. There was some glitter in it. I probably already showed you that. Ended up taking it to an old school tranny guy in town. He drilled a drain hole in it right here, flushed it out with solvent, and said it's good to go. So you can see the surface did not really get damaged from eating that pump bushing. I kind of cleaned it up with some crocus cloth. So our valve body here with questionable modifications. I mean, that thing's pretty good. I don't know what that is, but it looks pretty good. Yeah. What took a little while was I was kind of doing some research on this because I thought I had heard about this, but I'd never seen it. Wasn't sure if it was a good idea. Basically what's happening there is there should be springs there to kind of cushion, and they took it out and replaced it with a bolt. So based on that, and also how hard some of the valves came out, you'll see in the video I was really banging this thing on the table to get those valves to fall out. And they've got sharp edges and burrs on them, which is why they were kind of dragging the edge of the bore as they were coming out. Based on that and what I know about the tranny shop that put this valve body in, we're not going to trust that. So what we are going to do is just go ahead and catalog this in right here for now. So we're going to take all of that and we're just going to put that right there and pretend that we didn't see any of that. We're going to keep the separator plate for now. We'll compare it to the other one. I bought this transmission from the friend of a guy who took it out, and he's pretty familiar with big block Fords and C6s. He runs them in mud trucks and stuff like that. Apparently, so this is the story I got with it. This thing was in like a 55 F100 street rod with like a 545 stroker, some kind of big block stroker. And what happened was, apparently the front seal was leaking. It had a manual valve body in it. It came with the truck when the guy bought it. He didn't like the manual valve body. He ended up having a tranny shop in town put an automatic valve body back in it. And like I said, I know that tranny shop, and they are sketchy and they're crooks. So I don't like that. Anyway, the front seal, I guess it was such a pain in the butt to take this tranny in and out of that little pickup that they decided if it's coming out, he's just putting a new tranny in it, and that's what he did. So it got taken out. It sat on the floor of the guy's shop for a couple years, and the guy finally said, "Hey, can you sell that for me?" He said, "Sure." Now, I don't have a reason to doubt that guy. He seemed like an honest dude. Also, everything lined up with that. I mean, the torque converter was still in it. It was still full of fluid, so I was able to look at that. However, he never looked inside of it, was guessing, and basically that's the price point I bought it for. I paid $500 for it. After all of that rigmarole, I feel like I came out pretty good on this thing. So this is a lot better tranny than I was going to end up with originally. I was going to show you guys how to do a full trans rebuild. We'll get to that with another build, I'm sure, in the future. This was more of a video to show you what's in an automatic transmission and what you're looking for, and that don't be scared, you know. I've never let not knowing how to do things get in my way. You shouldn't either. All kidding aside, I have rebuilt automatic trannies before this one. But I basically tore it apart to make sure there was no metal shavings from the pump bushing eating itself, and also to see what kind of gears and parts were in it so that I know what I have. But I'm going to call an audible here, and we're going to make a change. We are running the converter because I feel good with that guy cleaning it out. And we're going to go take the valve body out of what should be a stock rebuilt C6. And we're going to put a shift kit in that one in the next episode with the 69 F100. Make sure you stay tuned for that. We're getting into rear suspension, rear axle, and finishing up the bed shortening, as well as we need to go ahead and box in the frame rails, do some more stuff on the front, and then we can get this C6 put together with those heads finally on our 460 and start fitting all that stuff in there so we can get ready to fire it up, which is coming early next year. So stick around for that. We got more builds coming up. We have 2 more engine builds coming up next year. We're going to start modifying the Bronco finally real soon. So anyway, yeah, thanks for watching. Stick around for that.